Hey there drone fans, Rick here again from Drone Valley. In today's clip, I'd like to cover the brand new Tello drone from a company called Ryze. Now, if you're a fan of the channel, you know a few months back, we went to CES out in Las Vegas, and before we left for that show, we sat down to put together a pretty well-organized plan of all the companies we wanted to visit while we were out there. Because if you've never been to a show like that, they're massive, and you can actually spend days wandering the floor and not get to see everything. So we put the list together with all the usual suspects you'd expect us to visit: Autel, DJI, Unique, PowerVision, and a bunch of other smaller drone companies that we thought were releasing products at the show. Now, just before we left for the show, we heard a rumor that DJI was going to make a sneak announcement of a brand new drone. So we thought, okay, we got to go talk to those guys. We also heard that Intel might be releasing a consumer drone at the show as well. So we thought, all right, we've got to visit both those booths and get to the bottom of that. And it turns out that neither of them were releasing a drone, but kind of both of them were releasing a drone, because both of them said to us, you ought to go check out the Ryze booth. So the Ryze booth wasn't on the main floor with all the other drone guys. It was upstairs, sort of tucked away on its own. But we found those guys and spent a lot of time talking to them about this particular drone. And the reason we're so interested in it is because it's the first consumer drone, especially under $100, that includes DJI technology for flight control and automation and things like that, as well as Intel technology. Now, I'll get into why that's important in a little bit, but I'm telling you, I got a chance to do a hands-on with it at the show. After talking to their engineers, it's mind-boggling to me. I'm absolutely blown away by the level of technology that's inside this drone for under $100. And you're gonna think $100, probably a toy drone. In some ways it is, but in a lot of ways it's not. And I'm gonna make a bold statement here. I think that this is a watershed moment for our hobby. And I'll get into reasons why I think that's true at the end of the clip. But mark my words that we're going to look back years from now and go, it all started when that Tello drone hit the street. Because I was waiting for somebody to come out with this level of sophistication in a drone that was that inexpensive, that consumers wouldn't have to think a whole lot about to actually make the purchase and enjoy this wonderful hobby of ours. So let me talk a little bit about the specs in the drone. I'll open up the box and show you what comes with it. And then I'll talk about some of the technology inside of it. And at the end, I'll give you some reasons why I think it's a really important moment for our hobby. So the drone itself is $100, which is great. It's now widely available. You can get it from DJI, interestingly. You can get it from all the major outlets online. Amazon's got it. You can walk into a Walmart at this point and buy it. So it really is the kind of drone that's everywhere at this point. And anybody that's thought about buying a drone to get started in this hobby, this would be a wonderful addition. But let me pop this guy open and show you what comes with it, because it's very sparse of what's included with the drone. But let's think about it. It's a $100 drone. Now, I bought two of these because I'm probably going to crack one of them open to show you what's inside of it. But I'm certainly going to spend a lot of time programming it, hooking up Bluetooth connections to it to show you how you can use a controller, showing you how a headset works, with all the cool stuff you're going to want to see. I'll do in future clips. So I pop open the box. On the bottom of the box, boy, I've ripped it already. On the bottom of the box, there's a little cardboard piece. There's a full-size manual, which is kind of cool. It's in multiple languages, so don't fear that it's that big. The printing is really small in this, so I'll probably download the PDF to actually read through that. And then there's a little package there. Now, if I open it further, let me open the top too, because that's probably where the drone pops out. Get rid of that guy. Cut myself. So if I open up the top, I can pull the drone out, and it's just it's a pretty basic package. Again, I've got the piece of plastic holding it in. Let me open that guy up. Oh man, that's so cool. Now, I played with this thing at the show, but I haven't flown this guy yet. I just can't, I'm telling you, I got to get through this clip because I can't wait to get this thing upstairs and fly it around. And that's one of the benefits of a drone this size, is that you can fly it outside, not in big winds, but you can fly it outside. But I love flying inside. And it comes with prop guards assembled, so if I bang into a lamp, I'm not going to destroy anything in the house, because I've done that before with drones. But man, oh man, this is a cool little box. And again, I did handle it at the show, but they were kind of like, give it back, we need it back. Fantastic little drone. All right, so there's the drone, cardboard, and there's the manual. So inside this little bag are the accessories. Now, it doesn't come with a lot of accessories. The first thing you're going to notice is there's no charging cable. And there's also no charger. So a lot of these drones will come with a wall charger and a charging cable at a bare minimum. This has neither of them. And again, it's under $100. So they're figuring anybody that's buying this probably has a standard wall charger that'll charge through a USB connection, and probably has a cable that they can connect up to this drone to actually charge it. So there's a side connection you make to the drone to charge it up. This is the battery. It comes with a single battery. And it comes with 4 replacement propellers, which is really nice. And it comes with this little wonky tool. Now, I did read through the manual online. This tool is a prop replacement tool, because the natural inclination, if you damage a prop, say you're flying this thing without the prop guards on it, they pop right off. If you nick a prop or have to change it, your natural inclination would be to grab it and yank it. The problem is these motors are so delicate that if you pull that up, the torque of you pulling that up could damage the windings and the magnets and stuff inside there. So this little tool actually goes underneath the prop, and you pry it off like that, slap the new one on. Now I'll show you in another video exactly how these props align, but there are marks on the props and there are marks on these bottom parts here that'll tell you which one's a clockwise versus counterclockwise. But that's pretty much everything you get. And to charge this guy, you'll need a standard wall charger that outputs USB type potential, like voltage and current. And you'll plug it into the side of this unit and charge the battery inside the unit. It charges really quickly, and it just flies like a wonderful product. Again, I flew it at the show. I haven't flown this one. I can't wait to get outside and start flying it. So let's talk about some of the basic specs. So when you look at it, in a lot of ways, it looks like a $100 drone, and there's thousands of those on the market today. So you're thinking, Rick, why are you getting so worked up over this one? I'm going to get into those details in a second, but let's talk about the basics. So the drone itself will fly for 13 minutes, pretty good flight time, pretty good sized battery, very efficient technology inside that drone. It has a 720p camera in it, which gives you really good videos, and it's digitally stabilized. Now, again, I haven't flown it, but I did fly it at the show to look at the video, and I'm telling you, I was rocking it back and forth, and it did a real good job of keeping that image stable. So for me, as a fun drone to fly around the house and take some snapshots or some selfies, I think it's a perfect drone. In addition to that, it's got dual antennas. Now, that's different. Those antennas are on the bottom feet. What's different about that is most drones that are around $100, they have a single antenna, which means it can be very directional when you're flying the thing. So that's why a lot of times when you're flying the smaller drones and they get a little far away from you and the antenna's facing away from you, you could lose that drone. It just loses its mind. So having two antennas means that I've got sort of coverage no matter which way I spin that drone, which is really nice. Then the last thing I'll talk about, which is something you don't find in drones like this, is there isn't a return to home function, because that's pretty sophisticated stuff. It would need some type of GPS coordination to get it back to where it took off. But it does have a low battery alert. So if you're flying this thing and you're like me and you get into it and you're having fun with it and you don't look down at the battery levels on there, it'll actually make a beeping sound and let you know that there's some issues with the battery. Now they talk in the manual too about having an emergency landing procedure. Now I haven't tested that, but trust me, I will, where I'll take it out, drain the battery totally and see what happens to the drone. Does it just land? Does it hover for a while and yell at me even more? I don't know. We'll find out what that's all about. So the basics of it are pretty simple. So when you look at this and say to me, Rick, what's the big deal? It's a $100 drone. And again, I could buy for the last bunch of years a ton of drones that are less than $100. Why is this one so special? Does it have brushless motors? Does it do this? Does it do that? What makes this so special is the technology inside of it. And I'll talk about that now. So inside this drone, and it's the first time to my knowledge that DJI has done this, they've licensed some of their flight controller technology to build inside this drone. So it's got DJI inside of it. It also has Intel inside of it. Now, those two companies bring different things to the drone that really enhance the ability of it to fly. And one major thing that I noticed about this drone when I was flying it at the show, which you don't find in drones of this class, is this concept of hovering stability. When you put most of the less expensive drones, sub-$100 drones, even sub-$200 drones out, they'll go up, and then you've got to do trimming activities with it. So when it's flying, when you first put it up, you'll notice it drifting to the side, or it'll drift front and back, or maybe it'll drift up and down. So it's got three directions that it can drift. And then on the controller, you've got little adjustments where you can, based on that drifting, you can say, all right, it's drifting to the right. Let me tap that a few times and make it come back to the center. And you could spend 10 minutes trying to get it perfect. And then all of a sudden you got 2 minutes left on the battery, it lands, you put it back up, and you got to go through all that again. So for me, the less expensive drones, that's the biggest pain in the neck going. This one, because of its visual positioning system down the bottom, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, this thing hovers like rock solid. Now, I'm not saying if you take it outside and a little breeze comes along, it's not going to move it to the side, but it's going to stop where it is. So I like the fact that I can fly it in the house and not have to worry about this thing deciding it's going to drift to the left and take out a lamp or a picture or something. So that technology allows it to do that. So let's talk about the two companies. So what DJI built into this particular drone through their, I'm sure there's some ASICs in there that are DJI specific, and I'm sure there's some software in there, but the visioning, positioning, optics, these two things on the bottom, if you're a DJI guy, you should be familiar with those. DJI, for the last several generations of products, has done a real good job of having optics that face down towards whatever surface you're flying over, and keep track of where it is relative to that surface. So if you've got, if it's a smooth surface, you're gonna have issues, but if it's a surface that's a little bit, I don't know, confusing, maybe it's got a lot of patterns like carpeting or tables and stuff, it'll look down, it'll see that, and it'll maintain that position over that thing it's looking down at. So it's a visual positioning system that DJI built into this. The flight controller and stabilization is stuff that came from DJI. So the fact that you've got to keep a quad in the air and constantly make adjustments to the speed of these motors based on where you are in the space, 3D space, is something that DJI built into it. So the stabilization is something that came from DJI. as cool as it is flying this thing manually, it's got smart flight modes in it. So it's built to do 360-degree pictures, to fly away from you, to do automatic selfie kind of pictures. All that stuff came from DJI. So if you looked at the Spark or the Mavic Air or the Mavic, all those kind of technologies are built into them. And what DJI is trying to do with that is to make this drone drop dead simple for the average consumer that's not a nerd like me that's going to spend 5 hours figuring out how to do that complicated shot. They just want to buy it, charge it, put it up in the air, take a couple pictures of the family, and do some cool, maybe aerial photography with 360s. The drone does that. It's $100. How did they do all that for $100? The last thing they did was sort of build it to be compatible with other devices. It's extensible. And what that means is I can take this and expand its usefulness. And what I try to do there is things like connecting up a Bluetooth controller. So you don't have to fly it. It's designed to fly through your phone, but it also tethers with the Bluetooth controller. So your phone's going to tether to this through Wi-Fi. You can fly it about 100 meters. If you want to use a Bluetooth controller, you'll make that tethering connection between the controller and your phone. And I'm going to do a clip on how to do that. So you can actually fly it with a game controller. How cool is that? $100 drone, I can fly it like a regular drone. It also has the ability to use VR goggles. So it's got a mode you can put it in where you slide the VR goggles into one of those like Homido things where your phone slides inside of it. And you can actually view FPV through this thing, through that VR technology. So that's another cool thing. The last thing I'll say, and this is where it really gets interesting for me, is it's programmable. The SDK for this, the software development kit for this, is available. That's never been done before. Matter of fact, if you're an Autel fan, and I know I'm going to get you worked up here, but I'm going to say it, the X-Star Premium, which is their premier drone up until they're about to release the Zevo product, they've promised for years that they were going to release the SDK for that. They never did. And people are really upset about it because what that SDK does is it means I can take control of the drone. I can write a program, in this case through Scratch, there'll be other programming languages as well, but I can write a program that'll autonomously force the drone to do things that I want it to do. I can have it lift off the ground, do flips. So I didn't mention that. It does flips in 3 dimensions. I can do flips. I can spin around. I can fly to a particular spot. I'm pretty sure I can even turn on and turn off recording or pictures. So I can't wait to start developing programs for Scratch, which is a really easy programming language to use. It's very simple programming language. Anybody can use it. You're basically dragging and dropping stuff over to program the drone. So it's extensible, meaning I can use the SDK to program this thing. How cool is that? So all that stuff I think came from the DJI side of the house. Maybe the programming came from Intel. All right, so what came from Intel? Intel's notorious for building incredibly smart chips. And in the case of this drone, they're using the Movidius, I'm going to mispronounce it, Movidius Myriad 2 VPU, which is a visioning, positioning, or visual positioning chip, which basically takes images it gets through these bottom sensors, and it's the horsepower behind figuring out that image and has it changed, and if it's changed, how do I get it back to the position where it isn't changed? So it's constantly doing calculations through those bottom cameras, those visual positioning cameras, to make sure that the drone stays exactly pinpoint where it is. So it's avoiding that drift. Now, if you've watched the Olympics recently, you saw that incredibly mind-blowing display of, I don't know, 1,000 drones up in the air that formed a picture of a bear, or I think it was a skier, a bunch of different things in the sky. Those were all drones built by Intel. Those drones had that chip in it. So this guy has the same level of technology for $100 that those beautiful, sophisticated flying swarm of drones have. And Intel's notorious for building some really, really cool tech. So for me to buy this thing, I don't know if I could buy that chip from DJI and the software and the chip from Intel. Forget all the other stuff, the motors, the propellers, all the cool stuff that comes with it, the battery. For $100, I don't know how they do it. So those are the cool things I think you're going to see there. And again, I think Intel probably had some say in how the programming took place and opening that SDK. But it's, for my money, it's the first drone, even if it was $400, the first drone that I can actually program. And again, as a nerd, I can't wait to start writing programs to have this thing dance around. And I'm going to show you some clips where I do that, have this thing dance around and be autonomous through that programming language. All right. So that's pretty much it for the tech. Now let me talk about some of the other benefits that are built in here. And this is as a hobbyist, right? So I fly for a living. I also fly for fun. I just love putting these things up in the sky. It's nothing but fun for me to have a drone up in the air, go out in a long afternoon, and feel the pressure of the day just sort of melt away. It's one of the best hobbies I've ever got involved with. So the challenge I've got, though, is that a lot of people still view drones as a bad thing. They don't want them on their beaches. They don't want them in their parks. And there's a natural, I guess, reaction to drones that if you're not familiar with them, maybe your first reaction would be, I don't like it. It's noisy, it's dangerous, it's taking pictures of me. And that's going on all over the country right now. And as hard as I try to explain to people one-on-one that it's not an issue, and that usually is perfectly fine, whether it's a neighbor or somebody that sees me flying, they get it. To do that in a mass way is really, really difficult. So what this drone does is it's got mass appeal. This is the kind of drone where I've gotten emails for the last 6 weeks since I put the first clip about it from grandparents and uncles and aunts and fathers and mothers saying, my kid really wants to fly a quad. Is this a good thing for my kid? Absolutely. For $100, you get your kid something that can fly, which is a miracle to me, in addition to something that they can spend time being really brainy about, writing programs to control it and having that autonomy built in. So I think what this is going to do for us, and that's why I'm saying it's a watershed moment, is a drone that's this inexpensive with this level of sophistication is going to have broad mass appeal. I think these things are going to be everywhere, and the more people that have them, the less afraid they are of drones, even the bigger drones, because they understand it because their kid flies a drone, their grandson flies a drone, maybe granddad's flying the drone with the grandkids. So it's all good stuff. It's all positive. So I think the first benefit is mass appeal. The second benefit is it democratizes the hobby. And what I mean by that is drones that are $600, $1,000, even $200, most people maybe can't afford that. I get that, right? I have a hard time affording this stuff, and I'm probably spending way too much money on the hobby. But what this does is $100. Not that that's a small amount of money. That's a lot of money. But if you've been thinking about getting into the hobby and you're saving up $10 a month or whatever to sort of get a drone, you got to wait a long time before you can afford one of those $1,000 drones. This guy you can buy the first year if you're saving. You can probably squeeze out of your budget $100 to give you an afternoon of fun outside with your kids flying this drone. So it's a democratizing drone in the sense that it's almost a drone that everybody can afford over time, or maybe you can get together with friends and buy it and all four of you can fly it. So it's a cheap enough drone with enough sophistication where it's fun, and you're gonna have a lot of great days outside flying this thing, and you're gonna be thinking about how you program it and thinking about cool things you can do with it. So all that brain power and all that interaction with your friends, being outside in the beautiful outdoors with your family is all positive stuff for me. So again, as a hobbyist, I love that angle of it. The technological advances. I'm still blown away by the fact that something this small and inexpensive comparatively can have that level of technology built into it. So for me as an engineer, I look at this as an amazing time to be alive because things like this are invented, released to the public. This level of technology 2 years ago would have been impossible to build into a drone for $500. And I know that the advancements are coming fast and quick, but the more they sell of these, the less expensive the tech gets, the more sophisticated, the more expensive drones get. So it's all a cycle of improvements and testing, and customer acceptance is really a good thing. Then the last thing I'll talk about is the programming, and I mentioned that already. If you've never programmed, a lot of times people think of that as the domain of nerds and, oh, they're programmers and they're goofy guys, we don't really understand them. But programming is an amazing experience. It's almost like learning a language. It isn't a way of learning a language, but it's a way of you having autonomous control over something else, a robot, maybe a smart home, maybe a computer program that does amazing things. You can do that with this drone. So if you've never programmed before and you've always been curious about what's it like to program something, sitting down and writing a program that you spend hours on that just does one thing on a computer screen, it's not that inciting. It's not that exciting for somebody to sit down and do that. But writing a program that'll put something like this up in the air, fly through the living room, spin around the lamp a couple times, take a picture of mom, and then come back and land is just too cool. So the programming aspects of this, I think, is going to open up just tremendous opportunities for kids in schools to learn this. And I'm connected with our school, so I'm going to probably pick up a couple of these and drop them off in the robotics lab so those guys can go off and learn how to program it. But I just love the fact that it's beyond just a drone. It's a drone that you now have programming capabilities for it. The last thing I'll say, and this is the biggest benefit of all for this, it's a ton of fun. I mean, if you've flown a drone, you guys have been out there flying drones, or maybe you're thinking about buying a drone to fly it, I guarantee you, the minute you put this thing up in the air, if anybody, you should take a picture of yourself, take a selfie the minute you put this thing up in the air, you're gonna be smiling ear to ear. This is one of those blissful experiences that I can't not giggle when I talk about it because it's so exciting to have this amazing flying machine take off and obey your commands. Fly forward, fly sideways, do a flip, spin around, take pictures. Like, the possibilities are endless. So for me, the fun aspect of it for $100, I just can't get past it. So that's my last recommendation for it. So anyway, that's it for the Tello. I will do a lot more clips on this. There's so many aspects of this I want to explore. And I know it's not a Mavic or an Autel X-Star Premium or even the new Evo. I'll do clips on all that stuff as well. But for me, the kind of drone this presents to the public is where most consumers are going to get used to it, and they're going to get familiar and be less afraid of it. So I'm going to do a lot of clips on this and explore how to program it, how to fly it, how to connect a Bluetooth controller to it. Maybe I'll have them dancing and show you how I did that. But stay tuned to the channel if you're all interested in this. But my final recommendation to you guys would be, I put these clips together because I love flying. It should be obvious by now that any day I can get outside where there's a beautiful afternoon and put something up in the air in a third dimension is a really good day for me. I think this is a really cool drone. And I know I got really excited about a $100 drone. People think of it as a toy drone. for me, it represents a lot more than that, and I hope it does to you guys as well. So if you have any questions about anything I've covered today, I'll put some links below where you can go investigate the Intel chip, and you can find these things online. You can buy them anywhere, but I'll put a link down below where you can get them from Amazon, have them shipped right to your house. I really appreciate you guys watching. So if there's questions, again, drop them in the comments below. I promise to get back to you as quickly as I can. And thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever's best for you. Please, if you're going to give me a thumbs down, let me know what you didn't like about the clip, because I put a lot of work into these and I want you guys to enjoy them, and I always want to improve them. So if there's something I'm doing wrong, let me know that. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, because we're growing every day, and that's a really reassuring thing to me that people are enjoying the clips. But this way you won't miss something if I post a new clip. But I'll have a lot of clips coming on this one, so stay tuned for those. Anyway, that's pretty much it for today. Until next time, happy flying.